Thanks, everybody. Hello. Hello. Thank you for coming to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. Our next guest, you may know him as Fox Mulder from the classic and now current sci-fi show The X-Files, as well as Hank Moody on Californication. But David Duchovny is also a producer, director, 2 times published novelist, and he's a musician. This year, Duchovny releases his 3rd album as a singer-songwriter, Every Third Thought. He's going to be here with us and the band to talk about it. We've got David, Keenan O'Meara, Colin Lee, Pat McCusker, Mitchell Stewart, and Sebastian Modak. All these guys are going to be here to talk about Every Third Thought. But before we bring them out here, let's take a quick look at a trailer for the album.
There's great sadness to the passing of time, regardless of whether you're in a good place or not. I wouldn't say my songs are about a longing to go back, but they're just the pain of no more.
Let's hear it, everybody, for David Duchovny, Keenan O'Meara, Colin Lee, Pat McCusker, Mitchell Stewart, and Sebastian Modak. And I should correct myself. This is the 2nd album with you guys.
No, I don't want to correct you because I got 3 albums now. Feels good.
David,
the 3rd one was the easiest, I have to say.
Maybe it was just Every Third Thought, and really stupid. Let's talk about, you finished the 1st album. How long ago did you guys go into the recording studio and start doing this?
I guess we recorded this almost about a year ago now.
A little over a year ago.
A little over a year ago. Yeah. And but we were working on the songs shortly after we finished Hell or High Water. We started working on new songs. So it was a couple of years working on those songs.
And what's the process? Or do you sort of come in with songs that you've kind of demoed and figured out? Or you guys come up with the songs together?
It's kind of it's changed over the last few years. At first, it was songs that I would have demoed, and then Colin and Pat and I, the band, work on it. But in this album, it's been more collaborative from the beginning. Even though some of the songs are that old way, but some of these songs are written by the band as well, primarily, and not me.
Wow, so you guys are writing songs together in the studio, or recording stuff separately, and then sending it, and then sort of figuring it out later?
Yeah.
Yeah, coming up with ideas together, just in the rehearsal space, sending them to David for lyric or melody ideas, and then kind of going from there. And a lot of cool stuff on this record, I think, came out of that process.
David, what would you say is the primary influence on you when it comes to lyrics? Because you're a novelist, so I imagine you're writing all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I grew up loving great rock lyricists, aside from loving literature. But I love Dylan. I love the Beatles lyrics, Stones lyrics. I love Leonard Cohen, Amy Mann, Joni Mitchell, the Kinks. I don't know if those are influences. I can just tell you that I love that.
That's the music that you don't necessarily try to channel anything when you're writing, just sort of.
Not really.
Yeah. What about when you're writing melodies or coming up with? Is it just sort of what naturally comes out of you guys?
I think so. I don't write music. I would just hear a melody. So I wouldn't even know how to write it down for you. But I just will come up with stuff and just hope that it's not ripping anybody off. Eventually I have to go check and see, like, it sounds so good because I already heard it.
Do you have that ever happen? You go into the studio and you play something for them? And
it
like,
happened with a riff of Pat's.
Yeah, for the original riff.
Yeah, the original riff was like, that is exactly, I forget the song.
The Every Third Thought riff, I think.
Oh, it was the Every Third Thought riff.
Yeah, originally.
What was that riffing? I'm sorry about that. We changed it, though.
Changed it, so
we changed
we had to change it.
all original now.
We police each other.
Yeah, we do.
The lead single off this is Half-Life. Why don't you tell me about that song?
Well, that's a song that just came about. Some of the songs will just come from an idea or an image. This song came from just being aware of having a real ignorant person's grasp of science and math. A CD student of math, and having heard the phrase and being aware of half-life, or radioactive decay. And half-life was just evocative to me of time passing, or maybe of losing love or losing life or whatever. So I just thought I would start kind of tossing in terms, scientific terms of decay and lawyerly terms of divorce, and hope to come up with a really happy song about it.
Do you feel like you came up with a happy song about it?
Yeah, you know, when you start throwing around words that end in shun, like petition and division, it's easy to rhyme. It's like writing in German.
Prior to working with these guys, had you played in a band quite often? And when did you realize that it kind of clicked with these guys and you were going to do more than one album or one?
No, I never played in a band. I just I'm a fairly new musician, so this is the only band that's ever had me.
Been an honor so far.
When did you start playing?
Probably about 6 or 7 years ago now.
What prompted that?
A number of things. I had some. My kids were getting a little older, so they would go off to school, and I would have the time off when they were at school. And I'd always loved music, and I wanted to just learn how to play. And I also wanted to. It was my kind of idea as a father that I thought it was a good idea to show them that I was continuing to suck at stuff.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, because you see kids struggle with their learning, and we all struggle, and it's like you just got to get through that. But it's easy to say, so they would see me kind of getting through my initial stages of guitar, and that was my thought process anyway. And then, the funny thing is now they're both way better guitar players than I am.
Is that true? Did they pick it up because you did, and then they picked it up much faster?
They may have picked it up because I did, but also they're kids, so they just get it. And because of the demands of performing live and recording, I've worked a lot more on my voice the past 3 or 4 years as we've started to think about recording. So the time that I might have put towards becoming a better guitar player, I've really worked on my voice that way. Not that you can tell, but I've been doing it. I've been putting the work in.
How did the whole band come together? Like, how did this group of guys come together for the band?
We all met in college, more or less. So
David including?
No.
David was like
their
2 years.
professor.
Well, Colin and I met first. We played in a band together for about 5 or so years. And then Mitch and I also played in a band together.
And I joined that band.
With Sebastian.
And Sebastian and I have played music together for the last 15 years or something.
That predates all of us.
Yeah, I think we win, actually. But you're second. That's fine.
Feel like the odd man out?
Yeah, I do. Because they're all, really, really excellent musicians. For one,
David went to high school with us too, and he was the singer of our band.
I did a lot of drugs.
Aged quite very fast, yeah. So what was the first time that you guys got into the studio like? How did that happen, and what did it feel like the first time?
Pretty horrific.
It was intimidating. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I don't think any of us did, but we were open-minded and tried to. I think the initial conversation just kind of started about like talking about influences and music that we liked, and from there it was a little bit easier to use that as a common reference point, and then go from there and like work on a groove or a melody or whatever it may be, and build from there.
I think it was helpful as well as a lot of us studied audio engineering and production. So the way that we actually ended up kind of demoing out these albums, we would do the whole album and basically record them in their entirety in our basement in Brooklyn, and then meet up with David, and then we would cut all the vocals and really get a sense of the direction that we were trying to go in. So when we went in to actually do the whole thing for real in the studio, we felt a lot more comfortable with what we wanted it to sound like.
Yeah, that's true. And the first day was bad. I mean, the first day that we were recording Hell or High Water was pretty hard for me, and because I'm not kidding. Well, I'm just not. I had never sung really, and I'd never really been asked to sing. And there I was in a booth all alone, just hearing my own voice and singing, and it.
Oh yeah, because and then afterwards, often when you hear playback and it's not put to music, that must have been like horrific for the first time.
I don't even think I waited for that. I was
just got the fuck out of there.
I was trying to hail a cab. Yeah.
So you start playing music and you start learning music. When was it that you were like, I'm gonna record an album? I've got songs. And when did you even start writing songs? Because I've been playing guitar for years and I won't write songs.
Well, why not?
Terrifying.
Just throw some chords together, man.
That's true.
I think the way I was teaching myself guitar in the beginning was to just look up songs that I loved and then see if I could play them with the 6 chords that I knew.
What was the first song that you looked up? Do you remember?
I think I played a song called Broken Arrow by Robbie Robertson. And I think I played Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots by the Flaming Lips. So these were songs with 4 or 5, 6 chords maybe that I knew at that point. And I would often look for a chord that I wanted to learn and then see if it was in a song that I liked. So then I would play that. Like a B7 was a big deal. It was a tough chord to finger. So I just go about it that way. And then I was like, well, these aren't, I would always look up the easiest chordage. What's the word? Is it chordage?
Chordage.
Sounds good to me.
Chordage.
That works.
There'd be like version 1. I'd be like, oh man, there's like a sharp 7, 4, no, and then finally they'd have like really easy chordage with a capo maybe. So I just thought most of these songs that I love are 5 or 6 chords, 3 sometimes even. And what's stopping me from putting some chords together? And if I hear some melody over those chords, then I know I can put words on them. So that's how I just started approaching. I just want to write one song. I didn't want to record it. I was just like, I'm going to write a song.
Did you? And what happened after you wrote that song? Did you play it for your kids?
No. No.
He played it for Colin.
No, that was before Colin. I was working with a friend of mine named Keaton Simons, who's a recording artist, and I said, hey, do you mind if can we go and just record this in your garage? Because he had a whole setup in his garage. So Keaton and I put down maybe 3 or 4 songs that I'd written.
Now, going into Every Third Thought, the second album, did you feel sort of even more confident in your songwriting abilities, and did you want to explore different parts of songwriting that you hadn't before?
Well, I don't know if I'm more confident. I'm confident that I can write a song. I don't know if I can write better songs. I don't know, but I'm confident more in the way we collaborate. I'm confident in what I instinctually bring, because I don't have an educated, it's a funny position for me to be in. I've always been an educated person in whatever milieu I've been in, and this is one where I've kind of willfully remained uneducated, just going by my instincts, and I kind of trust that, and I'm lucky enough to have collaborators who know how to marshal whatever it is I can bring that way.
How often do you find that you have to kind of remain even more humble than when you're in moments of being the most educated person in the scenario, that you have to kind of like, well, my instinct tells me this, but maybe I don't know exactly?
Well, I mean, I have my instincts about what sounds good, and that's you can't be educated to have good taste in music, or your good taste in music does not correspond to somebody else's good taste. It's completely democratic. It's completely random. But I know mine. When Colin and I are discussing, the melody of a song, and he wants to do this and I want to do that, I mean, I'm like, I'll listen to his, and if I like it better, I'll go. But if I like mine better, I'll go there.
Have you found that certain themes keep popping up in your songs now that you've written 2 albums worth of songs, or do you find them all to be instinctual and from the gut, and you don't necessarily overanalyze them?
I mean, it's coming from me, so that's going to be my concerns pretty much. And I think the fun of songwriting is that you take your experience, and I'm not interested in writing like a confessional song to tell you what I ate for dinner, or what I bought, or the shoes that I'm wearing, or who I love even, like by name. But I'm interested in writing a song that's very personal, but somehow it's become masked through this kind of universal frame of a song, a pop song or whatever. And you kind of make it vague enough to be relatable to everybody, but it's very personal.
Do you guys, where was the first show that you guys played together?
I think it was in Boston, actually, yeah. It was, I think, a couple days before we released Hell or High Water. We played a show up in Boston, and then we did a string of shows around the release for that album. It was pretty exciting, actually, the first time going on stage. I'd never heard just a initial yell from the crowd like that. It was kind of like a wall of sound. So that was
It didn't happen at the basements we played.
No, not so much.
Were you surprised that I think you have fans now of your music and of the show, but I'd imagine when you first got on stage with the band, a fair amount of the people were there as fans of your work as an actor, and you kind of had to sort of seduce them into liking the music a little bit. Were you surprised that they kind of came along for that journey?
Well, again, you can't seduce anybody into liking music. You can't do it. That's what I like about it. So I don't care. Like, if this was the audience, I don't care that you came to see me because you like me as an actor or whatever. I'm just assuming you're interested in me as an actor. But, I'm going to play some music for you, and then, you're not going to like it because you like me. You're going to like it because you like the music. Like, nobody goes to somebody's concert because they like that person. They go because they love the music. So that's all I ask. I don't care why you came in here. Like, when you leave, you're going to say I liked it or I didn't, and then you'll come back or you won't.
I'm not so sure about this, but I did like the X-Files reboot, so I think I really like this.
Exactly. Right. It just doesn't make any sense, right? So I don't care, I'm lucky that I've got a certain amount of notoriety that would get some people in. And then once I've got them in, I feel pretty good that we're making pretty good music, and then they'll go, I did like the X-Files.
I like the X-Files and I like this. Not bad. Speaking of which, I did see a clip on YouTube of you guys performing Helpless, Neil Young's Helpless, with Gillian Anderson, I think, from a year or two ago, maybe that was?
3 years ago, actually. I think that was for the Hell or High Water release show in New York at
Cutting
Room, yeah. That was exciting.
Yeah, what was that like?
That was bizarre. I mean, having Gillian on stage was awesome.
Didn't you get thrown on the phone with her just like an hour before the show?
Yeah.
Just, like,
Yeah, we had
walk
to-
over the lyrics.
She wanted to rehearse.
Yeah, I think we rehearsed it on speakerphone.
We were like, sounds great.
I remember she was like, right before, she's like, so what are you doing with that tambourine? I was like, it's all yours. Go nuts.
How did you get her to go along with that, and who chose the song?
Well, I think I forget it. The timing of it was good because I think they were just announcing that season of the X-Files that we were going to do.
Which would have been the first one back, right?
The first one back. So we were both in New York to do the upfronts. I mean, I live here, but she was here to do the upfronts. So I knew she was here, and I said, you want to come on stage and sing a song? We're doing a couple covers. Maybe you know one of them. And she knew Helpless, and then she wanted to know what key we were singing in, like she knows what she's talking about. And we were. So
does she, or was she trying to show off a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, she was a human being and had a healthy amount of fear of getting up on stage and singing live in front of people.
Yeah.
Unlike me.
Why didn't you ever have that fear?
I think I had that fear, but I don't know why it just didn't stick.
Let's get some questions here from our audience. Who has a question? Right here.
Hi. You've stated before that in your mind, you're a writer who acts. And my question is, what has been the most challenging emotion or topic you had to write about in these songs and share with your audience?
Well, I think because the songs I write are they're personal. I mean, I feel that they're personal, even though I don't name names and things like that. I'm always afraid that the people that are close to me in my life, or the people that I love, or even my children, will have whatever I'm singing about reflected back to them, or make them ask questions or answer questions from people that, is this about that or whatever. And I don't want any of that anxiety or pain on them, But if you're a creative artist and you're writing and you're creating stuff, then you do draw from your personal experience. That's what you do, even if you're painting or being non-representational. So I guess it's just the shitty part about having a dad that does what I do. But I don't feel like I'm an asshole about it. I don't go out there and I don't say this is what I did and this is who I did it with, and etc.
Do you have a greater fear of that when it comes to the songs versus the books that you've written? Because even if you're writing fiction that's like crazy, weird fiction, which you don't necessarily, you're still drawing from personal, intimate
Well, I was pretty
experience.
sure that I wrote about a cow that nobody would ask me, like, are you a cow? A book has a lot of words. It's hard, it's hard for people to pay enough attention to try to come and pin it back on you. Songs they're kind of begging you to tell a story about them, But my feeling, again, is like, I don't care so much about that. I try to write the songs in such a way that they are relatable on a universal level, and not just my stuff, but just it's all about life, love, loss, birth, death. The stuff that concerns us all.
One of the songs that seemed deeply personal, and I don't necessarily know if it is. I think it was just the tone and maybe an early lyric, and it was "Stranger in a Sacred Heart," which it's a beautiful song, but it does feel like incredibly personal. Can you talk about that song?
Well, it is. I mean, there's a song that kind of tells the lie to what I'm saying, because I actually say in the first line, "In the city where my father died." I couldn't get any more confessional than that. But yeah, that song just comes from being in a city where my dad died, and I hadn't, years ago, and maybe I hadn't properly mourned him. Maybe I never properly let him go, and I was starting to feel this in Paris, which is where he died. And then I took a visit to this church where I was told that people pray for not themselves. They don't pray selfishly, or even their family members. That they pray for the world. And I thought, wow, that's a great religion, and then I kind of put those two things together, and just that it was called the Sacred Heart Church was just kind of a beautiful coincidence and lucky for me.
Next question.
Hey guys, for you, David. Now that you're juggling acting and being a musician, do you find it hard to dig into your emotions as opposed to trying to get that out on screen when you're on TV?
Well, it's very similar. It's a good question, because it's very similar, but you wouldn't think so. So forever, since I became known for the X-Files, it's 25 years now, people will ask me, do I believe in aliens? Like it has anything to do with my life. But the fact is, when you act, you don't have to convince yourself that you believe in aliens. You have to convince yourself that you believe in something as much as Mulder believes in that. And that's what you act with. So it's much like writing a song, in that it's not important that I tell you the exact words about what's going on, but it's important that I convey the intensity of the feeling around it. So it's actually a very similar process.
But it's ridiculous to not believe in aliens. I mean, the probability of aliens existing is very high.
Of course. I mean, think about dark matter. I mean, it's egotistical of us to think we're the only ones. But it just never was that interesting to me.
Because it's obvious. Because it's so obvious that it's true. But it's just like, unless it's in front of me, what do I care? Let me get one more question.
Hello, guys. This question is actually for David and for the band. The other night, I was out to dinner with my family for my birthday, and I was playing your music, and they wanted to know, what's he play? First thing both of them said, they're 65 years old, was, ooh, they sound like Van Morrison.
Take it.
We'll take that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Influence?
Check. Thank you. Good night.
Do you like the Last Waltz kick on your way out there?
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah.
Definitely an influence. Absolutely.
No, I just...
Okay.
Do you like Van Morrison?
For them, because they know him, and I really don't.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, geez. I mean, I would say that, I'm from that era. I love Van Morrison, so I didn't name him in my influences, but there's a guy whose songwriting and songs that I love, and that's the kind of songwriting that I would, instinctively have kind of been emulating at some point, just that late 60s, early 70s classic rock sound. I'm probably not as jazzy as Van Morrison. I remember listening to Van Morrison in a car with my father, and who knew nothing about rock and roll, and he said, "Oh, he's a blues shouter." That's what they used to call them, blues shouters.
Because he's singing the blues but shouting it?
No, but that was a style of singing, I think. A blues shouter.
Really?
I think that's what he called a blues singer, was a blues shouter.
Oh, wow.
I think it's fun. It's fun to see, especially with this new record that was kind of more collaborative with the writing process and stuff, to see what people come up with what they think the influences are. Because I think more and more it's kind of all over the place. It's like Van Morrison, or earlier today someone mentioned like Mac DeMarco, or so like it shows kind of how all our own influences are bleeding into it. Just it's fun to see.
I think specifically in the line of Van Morrison, I think we do have a lot of, like, in the keys in particular, there's a lot of, like, Wurlitzer and kind of organ sounds, and with guitar as well. There's a lot of crossover with those two worlds, and I think that may not specifically have been a direct influence, but I think just, like, the 60s in general is something that we've always been musically inspired by.
And because we collaborate more now, these guys will push me vocally. Normally, when I was starting to write songs, I would keep it within my very limited range. And as I've worked on my voice, and as these guys will push me vocally to places that I wouldn't normally take myself. So I think that's also happened on the second album.
Great job on Billboard the other day.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Thanks.
Guys, I got to let you go. Every Third Thought comes out February 5th, right? Right now, people can check out the...
February 9th.
Fuck this. Second album, February 9th.
All these numbers, every third.
Guys, this is my
album.
fourth interview today. I'm sorry, man.
Is it really your fourth?
Yeah.
Second.
That one I was right about, because it's about me. No, but the lead single, Half-Life, is out now. People can check it out. It's on, people can watch it on YouTube, imagine.
If you say so.
How can people see it?
SoundCloud, I think. Yeah. YouTube. Yeah.
Guys, give it up for David Duchovny and everybody here from the band.
Thanks a lot.